Hi, welcome to Oma's Kitchen.
Oregano.
Let's make Parmesan-Walnut shortbreads and warm cranberry relish. We will need a half a cup of toasted walnuts. Toast them in the oven at 390 degrees for about 5 to 7 minutes. Spread them out on a parchment-lined cookie sheet and into the oven they go. For this recipe, we will need a block of Parmesan cheese and my kitchen grater. You will want to use the block of Parmesan, not the Parmesan in the green bottle. That one has cellulose in it, which isn't good for making shortbreads. I'm going to grate this very small, and then I will add in some finely shredded Parmesan as well. You could just grate it if you want. I'm going to put the shortbread recipe up here for you. These are so good and so worth the effort. So there's my finely shredded Parmesan to mix in. Now I get out my food processor, which is where we will assemble the dough. My walnuts are done in the oven. Add the butter to the food processor, and then pour in the shredded and grated Parmesan. I like to break the walnuts up a little bit to help them cool off quicker, and then I just pour them into a small bowl and let them finish cooling. Process the butter and Parmesan together, and you'll have to scrape down the sides occasionally. Once it's mixed together, add your cup of flour to the food processor, and I like to use almost a tablespoon of dried rosemary. If you're not a fan of rosemary, you could use less, or you could even switch to thyme or sage if you'd like. Both will work well in this recipe. Add half a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of cracked black pepper, and the mostly cooled walnuts to your food processor. Process it all several times, scraping down the bowl in between to get it to sort of mix together with the butter. Once it's mostly mixed together and resembles lumpy wet sand, I like to drizzle a half a teaspoon of water into the bowl and run it one more time. This gives my shortbreads a slightly firmer texture. If you left your oven on after toasting your walnuts, it's time to turn the temperature up to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I turn my dough out onto my cutting board, get it all out of there, and I will add a little bit of flour to make it easier to work with. Sprinkle that on top. I don't work with it very much because the more you work with shortbread dough, the tougher your shortbread is when it comes out. So I just want to make it into a rectangular shape, something fairly even, so I can cut 4 equal pieces. I cut it in half using a sharp knife, and then I cut each of those pieces in half again. I want to make 4 round shortbreads out of this dough. Working with one at a time, I add a little flour to my cutting board, and then I shape it into a flat round shape. Flip it over, and then gently roll it out to about 7 inches in diameter. This is a very, very soft dough. You don't have to press down on the rolling pin. Just the weight of the rolling pin itself will actually give you the right size and thickness for each round of dough. I run my hands along the edges to prevent it from breaking, and then I roll it out one more time to try to get it evenly to about a 7-inch circle. Just gently with the rolling pin. Then you will need a spatula and a pizza cutter. Cut each round into 8 pieces, just like as if you were cutting a pizza. And then you will use a spatula to transfer them to a parchment paper lined cookie sheet. Separate them and put them on the cookie sheet individually, with a little space in between. Two shortbread rounds fit on each cookie sheet, so I do this in 2 batches. Bake each batch of shortbreads at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 7 to 8 minutes. Just a little bit brown on the edges, and they look great. Transfer them to a cooling rack and leave them sit while you make your cranberry relish. You'll need a bag of washed fresh cranberries, an apple, and a medium onion, or half of a large onion. I'm using sweet onion. While I cut it all up here, let me put the recipe up for you. Peel the apple and onion and cut them into small pieces. Pour the cranberries into a large saucepan. Add in 3/4 of a cup of water, a cup and a half of cane sugar, a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. Stir these ingredients in together and bring to a boil over medium-high heat. Once it's boiling, you can cover it over to keep it from splattering on your stove, but leave the lid at an angle. Otherwise, it'll boil over and make a big sticky mess everywhere. Reduce the heat to medium and let the cranberries cook for 8 to 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then add in the apples and onions, and add 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Stir everything together well and let it cook for a further 10 minutes over medium heat. Don't forget to put your lid back on at an angle so it doesn't boil over on your stove. Stir it occasionally. I like to lift it up off the burner as I stir so that it doesn't splatter. And here's the warm cranberry relish. I have a tiny crock pot that's just for keeping things warm, so I like to keep it in there when I serve it. It goes so well with the Parmesan-Walnut shortbreads. Now we're going to have some of these with dinner, so don't pig out on them too much.
Wow.
So here I'm going to put a couple of these on this plate so you can take a couple of pictures of them. I know, right? Usually a couple of them and a couple tablespoons of the relish, and it is so good. Here, pile it on there. Look at that. You get a bite. Mm. These Parmesan-Walnut shortbreads with warm cranberry relish will be included in our Christmas dinner. Thank you for joining me in Oma's Kitchen. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll upload more tasty videos soon, and a special shout out to Moon Pie and Lil Bit. Till next time.